Yo, welcome to Talking Sports with the KingR. I'm your host, the KingR. Here we are, January, which means one thing: playoffs, football playoffs. As you all know, we've been talking about the college football playoffs, and of course, with the NFL regular season coming to an end, the NFL playoffs we'll be talking about too as well. But before, like I said, before we get to the NFL, we're going to talk about the college football playoffs. You know, the first year of expanding to 12 teams. We're down to 4. You know, the semifinals is just a few days away. And boy, oh boy, how about those quarterfinals? um, One really competitive game. The other 3, just like the first round, kind of one-sided blowouts. And surprise, surprise, the 4 teams that won all played in the first round of the playoffs. The 4 teams that had the bye: um, Arizona State, Oregon, Georgia, and what's blanking me right now? Boise State. How can I forget about Boise State? The 4 conference champions all went down. Yeah, Arizona State was the only one that put up a fight late, but yeah, you had Penn State beat Boise State, uh, Texas beat Arizona State, Ohio State over Oregon, and Notre Dame over Georgia. And I mean, let's just back up just there. The first game that took place was Penn State Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl, and people were questioning, the legitimacy of Boise State because they're not a Power Four, Power Five conference. They had one loss. Yeah, they lost to Oregon. Oregon are in the second game of the season, I think. But I mean, they play in the Mountain West. They're the men among boys, you could say, with their Heisman finalists, Gentry uh, Ashton, something like that. I should came more prepared, but he was close of breaking Barry Sanders' single season rushing record, and he had like almost averaged 200 yards a game, but um, no, Penn State came to play and they came to shut him down because, let's be honest, Boise State was one dimensional, and when you, let's be honest, play in a weaker division, conference, whatever you want to call it, um, the Fresno States, the San Jose States, Wyoming's, Nevada, Utah State, I do believe. Who else is in the WAC? Not the WAC. Mountain West, the Mountain West. Um, but I mean, when you play teams, those are the teams you're playing against. Nothing against those colleges. I'm sure in other sports. I mean, Fresno State? Fresno State's good at baseball, aren't they? But I mean, they just don't have the top caliber defenses like the Power Fours typically have. But in this day and age of NIL and transfer portal, you know, you got the money, you can buy a defense, I guess, or try to. But it still comes down to coaching. So, but yeah, Penn State, they shut down Boise State. They move on. But then you look at Penn State. Look who they played so far: SMU and Boise State. So next round, the semifinals, the reality check time sets in. Who do they play next? They play Notre Dame. Notre Dame, obviously, they played Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. The game was postponed a day due to real life actions, implications. terrorist attack, unfortunately, and we come to sports trying to get away from the real world, real life events. But unfortunately, shit happens, and hopefully we can prevent stuff. You know, heart condolences, thoughts, prayers, all that. But at least they were able to, get the game in, get security ramped up, this and that, and so forth. I mean, the Super Bowl is going to be in New Orleans this year, so I mean, just imagine what security is going to be like by then. But anyways, Notre Dame, they took care of Georgia. Did Georgia really have a chance? I'm not really. I don't think so. I mean, Georgia's also down their starting quarterback. They had to go to their backup, and yeah. But Notre Dame took care of business. They move on to the semifinals, and they're playing in the Orange Bowl, I think. So stupid. Let's just get rid of the bowls. Just have the host cities. You want to hand up. Here's your trophy for winning this bowl game. Yeah, still don't want to do that. Fine, whatever. But yeah, Penn State, Notre Dame. Other side of the bracket. First, Texas, Arizona State, the SEC runner-up versus the Big 12 champion. And Arizona State, I was pulling for you. I think I think it was Skidaboo, their running back, who was snubbed at the an appearance as a Heisman Trophy finalist. I do believe. I forget exactly the whole story behind that, but he was that heart and soul for Arizona State. Team that was they left the Pac-12, joined the Big 12. Were new head coach. Flurrying. They were predicted to finish second to last, then last in the Big 12, and here they are. I think they only had 2 losses on the season going in. They won the Big 12 championship, taking on the former big boys of the Big 12. Hook 'em. And it looked like it was going to be a runaway. But after Skidaboo decided to throw up on the sidelines and, catch his nerves and tell himself, Arizona came back in it, forced overtime, took the lead in overtime, and blew a 4th and 15, 13 play that brought Texas back in. They forced a second overtime, and Texas ended up winning. So Texas, on the near of the brinks of extinction after having a huge lead, saved the SEC season. And then finally, in the Rose Bowl, we had the rematch that we were supposed to have in the Big Ten championship game, but since Ohio State decided to lose to the team up north, the Michigan Wolverines. We had to wait a few weeks, and we got the rematch that we Oregon, Ohio State. They played earlier in the season. Ohio State lost that game because of some the game ended on their quarterback forgetting how much time and down it was or something like that. Just a goofy play, and lost because mismanagement, time mismanagement, and so forth. But here they are, rematch. Winner goes to the semifinals to take to the Cotton Bowl, I do believe, take on Texas. And what happens? Apparently, Oregon forgot to show up and play, but Ohio State didn't. They just, I think at one point it was like 38-0 Ohio State. They just beat the crap out of Oregon, and unfortunately, no undefeated champion this year. Oregon's first loss comes at the worst time in the playoffs. oh, boo-hoo for the Ducks, and you could say Ohio State was enjoying that duck soup. So, we have, like I said, we got Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Texas. And, so funny, so funny. I'm, just because I'm a Big Ten fan, or I'm a Wisconsin Badger fan who play in the Big Ten, doesn't necessarily mean I'll root for the conference. But in this hindsight, I'm hoping for an Ohio State, Penn State, even though I hate Penn State. You know, I hate Ohio State, I hate Texas, and I hate Notre Dame. I don't want to see any of those teams win. But unfortunately, if I had to pick and choose, I think at this point in time, I got to go with Ohio State. I think Ohio State has the best chance of winning. And I'm hoping they put the shellacking on Texas. And Penn State, Notre Dame, it'd be fun to see a all Big Ten national championship, just to put those East Coast elitists, those SEC bias, um, uh, romperoo, whatever, just to show them how it's done, that the Big Ten is the better conference. I mean, Ohio State beat up on Tennessee, and you didn't hear a peep. You didn't hear a peep. You didn't hear a peep. Oh yeah, Tennessee, not like they didn't deserve there. And then you look. Speaking of the going back just a hair, that team up north, Michigan, they took care of business against Alabama. Yeah, it's not like Michigan. Michigan had all their players that they had all season long, but with the transfer portal and the open and closing during bowl season, which is ridiculous. You know, um, they they really need to work on it. But yet, I also understand that these are student athletes or athlete students, where technically they're still trying to get an education. They're have to apply for classes, and when the term takes place and stuff like that. Like I understand that. I do get it. Why you need to have the portal when it is, because okay, they're transferring to another school. Okay, they got to get there, get enrolled in classes, plus you have spring ball, this and that, and so forth. Like, I get it, but there has to be a better way, especially since they've expanded the playoffs, and the playoffs don't end until championship Monday is the 20th, which is like in 2 weeks, a week and a half from now. So, and semester, I do believe, yeah. Spring semester has started. I forget exactly how. I don't. It's not February, but anyways. But I digress. I digress. So, but I haven't been enjoying the 12-team playoffs. And it's just a little disappointing that it's been mainly lopsided. But you know what? Maybe that's just how it is. It's supposed to be lopsided. And now, hopefully, with 4 teams left, the 2 games can be competitive. Championship game is competitive. We'll find out. But before I move on to the NFL, the college football playoffs, technically non-sanctioned by the NCAA. Okay? Yes, they're Division 1, but there's the football championship subdivision, the FCS, their championship, which is sanctioned by the NCAA, just crowned their 2024 champion. And surprise, surprise, It was Montana State, who was 15-0, taking on North Dakota State, who was 13-2 in the championship game in, I believe, Waco, Texas. And for the 10th time in 14 years, North Dakota is your Division One football national champion. So congratulations to the Bison yet again. And this just incredible. You know, where you're in school for 4 years, give or take, and you can dominate the one sport. They're just like UCLA from the 50s, 60s, who won like 11 straight national championships or something like that. Just I forget exactly, but you get what I'm saying. And to some extent, you wonder why you didn't see that in the FBS, because prior to 1978, there was a Division One before they split up into subdivisions, Division A and Division AA, or Division 1A. Yeah, it was Division 1 and Division 1A. And 1A, which is now the FCS, decided, hey, we're going to do a playoff format, 4 teams, and then they went to 8, then 12, 16, and now to their present day 24, showing the FBS that it can be done. You can have a playoff system. But they waited like 2 weeks between the semifinals and the finals, which is ridiculous, though. It is what it is. So yeah, congratulations, North Dakota State. And like I said, prior to that, there's only been a three-peat champion once in what you can consider is the FBS, and I believe that was Minnesota back in the 30s. But that was when national championships were handed. They like, here you go. Here's We'll listen to the polls, see what the writers say, see what the coaches think. Okay, yeah, okay, you're national champions. Yeah, you got the most votes and stuff. Actually, selling it on the field, which I'm happy that the FBS Division One is finally doing, and maybe somewhere down the road, the NCAA will sanction it. Who knows? But I digress. We'll see what happens. Division, and there's still Division 2, Division 3 college, NCAA. Congratulations those winners. I don't know who you are, but I know they took place, so yay, congratulations. So we got 3 more games left in the college football playoffs. We'll see how that turns out, and I'll be here giving my thoughts and opinions on that as it comes. But now we move on to the big boys, the NFL, the National Football League. Their season has come to an end, the grueling 18-week season, and we're down to 14. But before we get to that, Tennessee, you are now on the clock. The Tennessee Titans finished the regular season with the worst record, and they will get the first draft pick, which will take place in my beloved Green Bay, Wisconsin, this upcoming April. And I'll get to my Packers in a minute. But it was so funny as the season was coming to an end. And like the Jets, the Giants, the Patriots all had chances to get the number 1 pick overall. But as soon as they had the opportunity, they started winning. But nope, it was Tennessee. And then speaking of that, coaches got fired. We had at least three mid-season coaches that were fired. We had the Jets, the Saints, and the Bears all fired their coaches mid-season. I'm trying to remember if there were some other mid-season firings. Not counting coordinators and this and that. Jacksonville just fired their head coach, Doug Peterson, former Super Bowl winning head coach. The Patriots fired their head coach, Mayo, who was more or less they felt like it was time to move on from Bill Belichick. Mayo was the one waiting in the wings, and he only lasted one season, which is a little shocking, especially when it was hand-picked. Mike McCarthy of the Cowboys, his contract is technically up, and so either the Cowboys have they have first dibs at talking to him and see what he wants, and if they want to re-sign him. Otherwise, he's free to go if he chooses, and there's talks that the Chicago Bears are interested in him. That'd be funny to see. Bears hire former Packers and Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy. That would be interesting. But yeah, we'll see how that all goes. Let's see. 14 teams made the playoffs, which means 18 teams. Yeah, that sounds about right. 18 teams get to start their off season. So, 14 teams, 7-7 playoffs. First, I'll say I'm not a big fan that they expanded the playoffs, even though my team has benefited from it the last 2 seasons. But next thing, when they expand the NFL to 18 games or 17 games right now, 18 weeks. Once they expand the NFL to 18 games, the playoffs are just going to become an even 16. No more bye weeks. 8-8, just like in the NHL, and just like in the NHL. NHL has 16-team playoff. I was going to say NBA, but the NBA does not. The NBA has actually has 20. Yeah, 20-team playoff if you include the play-in games. So, and MLB, well, they have the old NFL format, 12 teams, 6-6. But I digress. So, in the AFC side, what a shocker! Number 1 seed, Kansas City Chiefs. They're the number 1 seed on the AFC side, followed by the Bills, who, Chiefs won the West, Bills won the East. They're the 2nd seed. Baltimore won the North. They're the 3 seed, and winning the South and the 4th seed, Houston Texans. Someone had to win that, and it just so happened to be the Texans. The 3 wildcard teams in are LA Chargers. Congratulations to Harbaugh. That's John's in Baltimore. Jim, we could have a Harbaugh Bowl in the playoffs. Jim getting the Chargers to the postseason. They're the 5 seed. Mike Tomlin, he returns to the playoffs again and winning record, but doesn't look like things are going quite their way. They're the 6th seed, the Steelers, and last but not least, they won and got in because Kansas City did not play any of their starters. The Denver Broncos, 7th seed, they're in. So the matchups are Denver at Buffalo, Pittsburgh at Baltimore, and Chargers at Houston. And on the flip side, the NFC, number 1 seed, the Detroit Lions. Even with all their injuries, they mustered through and finished the regular season 15-2. And anyways, they're the number 1 seed, 2 seed on the Lions won the North. And winning the 2 seed, winning the East, Philadelphia. The Eagles, the 3 seed, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they won the South and are the 3 seed, which means the 4th seed from the West, the LA Rams, who, they locked the West up. They didn't care to be either the 3 or 4 seed. They knew they were getting a home playoff game, so they decided to rest against in their final week, which, you know what, I should. I probably won't circle around and come back to that. But anyways, then the 3 wildcard teams. Minnesota, 14-3. How shocking is that? That 14-3, they're a wild card. Anyways, the 6th seed Washington Commanders, they're back in the playoffs for the first time in a while. I can't, no, since 2020, I do believe. Yes, 2020. So yeah, it's been a while now that I think about it. And then the 7th seed, my Green Bay Packers, who have been just miserable. So the matchups, Green Bay at Philly, Washington at Tampa Bay, and Minnesota at LA. Looking at the field, I do feel like there's only 3 teams from the NFC that can punch their ticket. I don't even want to say 3. There's really just 2 teams, and one team might just get lucky where they are, And on the NFC side, and the lucky team I would say are the LA Rams. They're getting hot at the right time. They're getting healthy at the right time, and they have the right path to get there. Especially because in the first round, they're taking on the Vikings. The Vikings just came off a humiliating loss. Yes, they'll get an extra day to rest because that game's going to be on Monday night, the Rams and Vikings. But I just think if the Rams watch what took place on Sunday night, plus the Rams did beat the Vikings earlier in the season, that I think LA is going to walk away with a victory and move on to the divisional round. No doubt. And depending on then who wins between Green Bay and Philadelphia will determine who the Rams would play next. Now, how my Packers have been playing the last few weeks, and just god awful. Sure, they had the opportunity to beat the Eagles in week 1 in Sao Paulo, Brazil. That's a long time ago. That was last year. But I digress. Philly still has, Jalen Hurts is in the concussion protocol still, but they still have Saquon Barkley, who they decided to rest week 18 to be 101 yards shy. I don't know if it was 101 yards to tie or break the season rushing record, which it's just so funny to hear people bickering. He should play, break the record. Rest. And I'm not going to dive too much into it. I mean, it is what it is. If Barkley would just average 7 more yards per game, he would have had the record beat and didn't need to play whatever. But just how the Packers are playing lately, yeah, they can stay in games. This just sloppy mistakes and just not discipline. I just don't see them, even if Jalen Hurts isn't playing, I just don't see the Packers going into Philadelphia and getting the win. A confident win. It's possible they can sneak out a win, but I still don't. So I'm going to say Philly wins that game. So Philly wins that game. they it depends on who wins Washington versus Tampa Bay. And if Washington wins, they would face Detroit. If Tampa Bay wins, they would face Philadelphia. And I'm leaning towards Tampa. I feel like this game is going to be a shootout between Tampa Bay and Washington. And I think whoever has the ball last will win the game. I think that's going to be Tampa Bay. So we would have Tampa Bay versus Philadelphia and LA versus Detroit, that just sets a week 1 rematch that went to overtime. And I think the Rams are ready for Detroit if that needs to. And I think LA is going to bounce back and take care of business if they have to face Detroit. So I would say Detroit loses. That rest and relaxation cost them. I say Rams beat Detroit. On the flip side, there was Tampa Bay, Philadelphia. Tampa Bay already beat Philly once. And it depends on Philly's health status. So, but you know what? Give me Tampa Bay sneaks past Philly, even in that cold, harsh Philadelphia environment, which would set up Tampa Bay at LA. And to be honest, I like LA. Give me, yes, I'm going with this. Give me the Rams winning the NFC. So, now, AFC side. Tell you this, I do not want to see Kansas City, okay? Make it or play in the Super Bowl. So, the matchups. Denver. We'll start with Denver, Buffalo. The games in Buffalo. Denver is still here or there, but I'd say Buffalo's got this. Buffalo's got it in the bag. They'll take care of business easily and move on. Then you got, what, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. Whew. Just when we need a third matchup. But I think how Pittsburgh's been playing lately, they've been playing like dog crap, just like my Packers, when it looked like they had some thrive to them. But yet, when you're beating up on weaker teams and weaker opponents, hey, there you go. You look like you're unstoppable. But then when you actually play a competent team with a winning record, then you just crumble up. So I gotta go with Baltimore. I think Baltimore is going to take care of business over Pittsburgh, and yeah. And then lastly, the coveted 4 or 5 seed, LA, the Chargers taking on Houston. Give me the Chargers. Houston's only there just because someone had to win the South, and it just so happened to be them. So, that would set up Chargers, Chiefs, so another AFC West rematch, and Buffalo versus Baltimore. And I think didn't Baltimore beat Buffalo earlier in the season? And I think they could do it again, even if it's on the road. I think they Buffalo just doesn't have it yet. Just doesn't have it yet. I say Baltimore takes care of business. They get the W. They move on to the championship game. On the flip side, we're not going to get our Harbaugh Bowl. We're not going to get Jim versus John in the AFC Championship game, which would be kind of nice and funny. But I think with the rest, I think with the relaxation, Kansas City takes care of business, and they win. They beat the Chargers closely. Maybe the refs get involved again somehow to set up Baltimore at Kansas City, a Week 1 rematch. And I think this time round, Baltimore get her done, and they get redemption from week 1 and take care of business and beat the Chiefs to move on to the Super Bowl. Go, apparently, I just saw this over the weekend. Baltimore, they made the Super Bowl in 2000. They made the Super Bowl in 2012 season. 12 years apart. It's been 12 years. So, Baltimore make it to the Super Bowl every 12 years, possibly. I know someone's trying to make the Packers made the Super Bowl in '96. 14 years later, they made it to the Super Bowl again in 2010. It's been 14 years. Is the pattern going to continue? I mean, technically, the pattern could continue between the Packers and the Ravens. 14 years apart, 12 years apart. It just so happens they line up this time around, but someone has to win. But I don't see a Packer-Ravens Super Bowl. Anywho, so I guess I'm going with the Rams, Ravens Super Bowl, and I'm going to go with the Ravens. I'm picking the Ravens. I think the Ravens will win the Super Bowl. Just looking at the matchups, who they have, and so on and so forth. But you know what? Prove me wrong, and so forth. So I think that'll do it for me this time around. I'll be back next week to cover the college football playoff semifinals and talk about the national championship game and the first round of the super wild card weekend. Even though I don't think the NFL still calls it that, they got rid of the super part. We got 2 games on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and 1 on Monday night. And then once that concludes, and I'll be back. You can hear me give my opinions on those games that have happened and what will happen, all the way up to the Super Bowl, basically. And then we'll go from there. So I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Enjoy some football. Enjoy some sports, so we can talk more about them later. Until next time, adios, muchachos.